chance to share with you the two-year proposal that the elders have recently approved. These next 2 years, we want to see how God can use us to further grow His kingdom. Here at Move, we strive to exemplify the life and love of Jesus Christ. We do this first by reaching into the community, inviting you to a family relationship that you will worship and grow besides. Our purpose is to equip and prepare your family to go back into the community, to carry out the Great Commission. We believe that by following this simple method, we can continue the cycle of positive growth instituted by Jesus. What Jesus did in His ministry, He went out to reach, and then He taught, and then He invited them in to be part of it, and then He sent them out. It's what we're called to do, to live out the Great Commission. So our simple mission is striving to exemplify the life and love of Jesus Christ. And that's what we're called to do. That's who we're called to be. The dream that we will have 2 modern-day Spirit-led services. That we have 4 full-time funded and provided for staff members focusing on the mission of the Great Commission. And that we'll have some support staff that we're able to pay for their help. And have 80% of us studying the Bible in a small group setting, either within the context of Move or outside of Move, but all 80% of us connected that way. And 80% of us serving in some shape or form within the context of Move. I propose, and the elders approved, 4 first steps. These steps are what I believe need to take place as we prepare to continue growing God's kingdom. The first step is to call Dalton from just being the student minister to the minister of discipleship, the pastor of discipleship. He will still wear the pastor of students hat and work with them, but he's also going to be added the responsibility of overseeing our discipleship here at Move. This will involve being the resource and the contact person for the small groups, establishing small groups as the need arises, offering training for leaders in other aspects, along with assisting me in any area of ministry that we need. We also would be calling Malin to continue being the children's director and give her payment or salary for doing all the social media and administrative stuff that she already does right now voluntarily. And so we want to give her a pay increase to cover that. We also want to provide Olivia training for the role of worship minister in that area and offer her to come on staff at a part-time basis. Now, how can we do this? What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about, depending what the eldership decide within Merlin's salary, probably in the ballpark about $1,600. Adding Olivia in a part-time capacity is probably going to be in the ballpark about $400. And so we're looking at about $2,000 added to the monthly budget. How in the world? Well, I wish I could tell you, church family, that I could write my bus check and just say, here it is, we'll cover it. But I can't. And so I've got to have your help. We've got to do this together. If we take the 40 consistent already given units, and each one of us, if we're able to increase what we give $15 a week or $60 for the month, we'd be able to cover that. Now, I know not all of us are going to be able to do that. That's okay. You have to give what you're able to give and what God leads you to do. Some of you are already sacrificing more than I could ever guess or imagine. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel pressure. But if you're able to give up a fast food meal this week, or give up a subscription to something and pour that into the church above what you're giving, great. I have made a commitment to increase the Mullins Zoo's giving $15 a week. That's what I'm able to do right now. I wish it could be more, but that is where I'm at, and that is what I'm able to do. And so we're just inviting you to do that. And what we need is for you to give that commitment. And there's multiple different ways to do that. If you want a paper copy, I'll be able to provide that for you. Or you can scan the QR code and fill out a Google form. Or you can email the finance@christianchurch.com. Now, if you do any of those, the finance team will see how much and who is doing that. If you prefer to stay anonymous, and I understand that, there are many who don't want that, you can give your commitment directly to our financial secretary, Ms. Tammy. And she will be the only one who will know who is making that commitment. You can do that by calling her, texting her, or emailing her directly, and she will make that available. A very conscious effort as a staff, as a leadership, and I hope as a congregation to focus on four processes. Four processes. Everything we do needs to be about these four processes. And the first process that we're going to really focus on is the field. We're going to really focus on this idea of reaching out individually, as a community, as a group, for the field. And then once they walk through the doors, we need to grow and love the flock. We need to keep them around, retain them. And that's done by making sure that they feel welcome, that they feel like they can be part of this amazing family. And we have to make a real conscious effort to make sure that they are welcomed and follow up and plugged in. And then we take them to the forge, we disciple them. This is where the Bible teaching comes in. This is where the small groups come in. This is where we encourage each other to read God's Word on our own. And then we do all that to prepare to send each other out, to continue growing the kingdom of God. These four processes are going to be our main focus for the next 2 years. That is why I asked the elders, and they approved, to call Dalton to be the minister of discipleship. He will take on the forge aspect of the growth process. I will be currently over the other three. When we grow, we will add staff who each take one of those as time goes on. Now, if we are doing what God said to do, and God brings in the harvest, and we are reaching out and people are coming, there are some physical things that we must do to make sure they have space, that make sure that they can find their spiritual home. And so this is just simply physical things that we'll have to adjust. On 120 adults in the worship center, we have to have 2 to 3 volunteers willing to be aware of the capacity filling up. We have to have ushers helping a family of 4 walking through the door not have to try to find their seats by themselves or walk straight up to the front. None of us want to sit in the front row when walking someplace new. We have to have that. When we start to run about 140, we're going to have a capacity of parking. But once again, once our parking is so full, somebody new coming in will drive and say, "There's not a place for me," and they will just drive away. And so at that point, we're going to have some people helping guide parking. Some of the leadership will have to start parking down Edgewood. Those type of things will have to take place. When we start to run 140, we can add some chairs. There is room to add some chairs. But you can only add chairs for so long. And that when we get to a point of running 150 to 160 within here, we have to start discussing and making plans for a second service. Unless you want to give us $500,000 to expand this building, we have to do our part to use this amazing facility that God has provided. And we just have to use it twice. But in order to do that, we cannot expect a volunteer worship person to run and prepare for 2 services. And we will have to hire full-time at at that point. But as we do that, we must then be ready for when we get to the point that we need to launch it. Now, in my 20-some years of ministry, including our history here, when we've gotten to those points, if we don't make the adjustments, naturally we will go back down. So, at the same time, there may be something else that grows. It may be the children's ministry or the youth ministry. Currently, we know what we have is sufficient. We're very blessed. And we'll just focus right now on the student ministry. They, in that wonderful student room, can run about 15 or so. It gets a little crowded for 20. But anything over that, there is no room. They've reached 80% capacity. A teenager is the same as us. They'll say, there's not enough room for me. There's not enough space here. So when we get to that point, we're going to have to move the student ministry into the big room. And when we do that, there's going to be a number of adjustments that will need to take place. That church functions under 40 will have to be used, set up different spots of the building. At the same time, one of the big areas we'll need to provide transportation. To take that next step, we've got to be able to pick up kids and take them home. It's just what's needed. And so those are some things and game plans that we'll need for student ministry. But in all of these steps, it's got to be bathed in prayer, guided by discernment, shaped by the mission God has given move. And this plan isn't just about numbers, it's about people. Growth always serves the purpose of deeper relationships, greater outreach, and sustainable ministry. As I close, I just want to remind us that most churches fail to break the 200 barrier because they cannot embrace the reality that church does not exist for their sake, but for the sake of those who are not yet there. Until the pastor, the church leaders, and the congregation as a whole refocus their attention from themselves to those beyond their walls, they will not be able to see significant and sustainable growth. The 20% of churches that beat the odds and break the 200 barrier ceiling do so because they are more committed to the kingdom than anything else. Collectively, they're willing to sacrifice personal comfort, the status quo, and the idea we've always done that. And so I hope that you're part of wanting to do that.